Does your child know how to sew on a button? Maybe I should ask, do you know how to sew on a button? I want to make the case for the importance of learning to sew on a button. This is Dr. Roger Smith with Parenting Matters Now. I want to share my story with you in the sense that here is my lab coat, and yes, I am a real doctor. And you can see that it has buttons down the front, and oops, look at there, look at that buttonhole. There was looks like a terrible mess right there. And you can see where one day my button had pulled through and I had to make a emergency repair. And so it looks terrible, but on the other side, the button is what I was going to talk about. And the button often, even because there's a tension point right there at that button, it often pulls through, and even this button had pulled through. And you can see where I stitched it on, and I did a kind of an amateur job, but I'm not saying you got to do a perfect job. But on this one, I said I'm going to keep it from pulling through. I put a button on the backside so that it would have some strength. So what's needed to sew on a button? Well, they need a needle. And does your child even know that it has an eye where it puts the thread? And do they even know that on the spool of thread there's a little notch that holds the remaining thread? So how do you thread a needle? Look at there, there's the eye, there's the thread, and I did a perfect job on that one. Of course, I edited it, as you might know. So anyway, your child needs to know those things and to see that all those things can be done. First of all, they love the challenge of threading the eye of the needle. And, that's a famous saying. They need to know what it means to thread the eye of a needle and how challenging it can be. And so, learning how to do some of these simple things, because they may be in a situation where they have to have an emergency repair. Maybe they're on an expedition and something comes apart and they have to know how to stitch it back together. And so learning to do something as simple as sew on a button, and no, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what we have professional seamstresses for, and now it's done by machine. But you can look at a button and how it's put on and learn how to stitch through and secure the button in such a way that it will work. So that is a task that I would challenge you to sit down with your child and let them learn how to thread a needle and to unroll the spool of thread without losing it all. Also to then thread something on the needle. To stitch something together. And a good thing to learn on is to do a button. And so I forgot to practice this, but I wanted to show you another reason why they need to be familiar with buttons, is because there's this old game that children through the ages have played with buttons, and it's just a string and a button. And children can play with this for, well, maybe a few minutes. And so have them learn to stitch on a button, but then show them how to play with buttons. So learning can be fun. This is Dr. Roger Smith. Teach them how to sew on a button.